for the day. So I just want to share my screen with you. What I have up is the image that I had yesterday. This is what I chose. I traced it all out. All of it lives there. I've got my image on probably layer 0, so when I turn it off, it disappears. This was my original sketch. I just made a copy of it. I kept my original sketch where it was, right? So once I've sketched it, even on I just kind of keep that with my drawing sketch. It's kind of what I scaled down. So once I had this done, I just made a copy of it down here that I scaled down, and then I started to change some things about it. So what I did is I pulled out these inner shapes and pulled them out into the side. These are going to become engraved shapes, is what I was thinking. And so what I did is they were originally traced with that same color of line. And so I've actually turned off that line. But before I turn that off, I hatched it. So let me turn that back on. What I did is I hatched this black, and it's just going to be because the laser is going to pick that up as an engraved like solid, essentially. So I just did hatching on those shapes, which is what you have right here, right? It's in your draw command, hatching. You can hatch with total solids, is what I've done. So I hatched my polygons with black, and uh, and then I kept the rest as just like these cut lines, essentially. Of course, I've added a little top to it so it'll hang or something, but. And that's how so I had to have a boundary to hatch, and so I used my original polygons to hatch, and then I'm able to turn those off. I don't really need those to be part of the whole, like what's going into the laser cutter necessarily. I just wanted the hatching itself. So I turn off that layer. So I just have these hatched polygons now. And over here, these are just visible line. I think I turned, once I scaled it down, I turned my cut lines into visible lines here. And so if I was just looking at these two, that's kind of how I've modified. They're just my original sketches, only I've kind of broken up the shapes. And this one I could even pull off too, because I did it as a score. If you saw my little thing when I passed it around, it was a scored, uh, which is not cut through. I think it works for me to leave it on the kind of the cut ones here. I'm thinking this is my cut polygons, this is my etched polygons. So once I've done that and I've hatched them, now I'm ready to kind of go to send these to Glowforge. And what Glowforge wants is just it's going to read a PDF. So on my layout sheet, I have deleted everything so I've deleted all my titles, all my title blocks, borders, everything. I'm just down to nothing essentially here. I've got one viewport, and I just zoomed in my model space to what I want to cut, and these are at a 1-to-1. So I really, when I scaled them down, I knew what size they were going to be. I did some measurements. It's just a couple inches tall, so I just set these at a 1-to-1, and then I've got my viewport zooming in on just those, and then I just made my PDF, so it's like this. So here's my PDF with just what I want to cut, and then I'm gonna send this into Glowforge now. So I say, okay, I don't know if I have, let me see if I have this as a PDF already. Let me check real quick. I think I've already saved this as a PDF right here. It's like my 1.5-inch PDF. So here's how the PDF was saved, just like this. So now I'm going to bring this into Glowforge. So I'll bring over my Glowforge. Once you set it up an account, this is probably Glowforge's home page right here. Let's see here. There is a dashboard here, so I'm going to go to their dashboard. I think everybody kind of has a dashboard. I don't think this really saves like I've dumped a lot of stuff into my designs here, and it seems like it gets purged out every once in a while. So like if I come into this right now, there's probably nothing in there because I haven't cut anything. Originally, I kind of copped this idea. All I did was look at it and actually created mine. I didn't actually buy I just totally borrowed their idea and concept and used my own dimensions for what I needed. But once you're into my designs, so here's your homepage, you go into my designs. You should just be able to drag and drop your PDF into here, right? So I just come in here with my PDF, wherever it is. Here's my PDF, drag and drop it. It's going to like just process in it's just going to interpret this for the laser cutter here. And then it usually will go, I think once it interprets it, it'll go to what the laser cutter, kind of the laser cutter looking camera, it knows that we have this kind of a laser. So it knows what the cutting parameters can be. So if I give it just a minute, depending how complicated your drawing is, it takes it a minute to process it. Sometimes you'll have some errors here, and you've got to go back and maybe troubleshoot your drawing a little bit, resave the PDF. Maybe I have had a few of my PDFs kind of not come through clean. So we'll see here if this comes through. How long it takes, I don't know. Usually they're pretty quick actually, but
just never really worked.
To bring it in.
Yeah,
Yeah, this thing can be a little temperamental, maybe. I'll just push pause. Should be. So I think mine did come in. It does say, hey, this design contains a clip path. So the clip path has been changed to a path. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And oh, I just slide this. Yeah, it's like a real sticky. Yeah, what I'm seeing kind of now is the I'm seeing the laser. There's nothing on the laser, so like everything is in. So these are my shapes that came in. This is how it interpreted them. All these little line segments were interpreted by the laser, which is this is where it's a little more clumsy than a DXF might be a little cleaner coming in, a little more simplified. So it looks red like this because it shows there's no material. It can't recognize what you're going to cut here. It recognizes my pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip in a piece of material with the cutter right now, and you'll see how this changes. So let me slip in a piece of something. I'm not going to cut anything yet. I'm just going to show. At this point, you would come over here and kind of like load what material you're cutting out of. I have a lot of stuff that already has like a QR code on it. So the laser itself will usually read that out. Like right now, see, it just read this, and then my cut paths kind of turned orange. Um, so and then this is just how it interpreted it. Here's your steps that are going to happen over on the left-hand side of this screen. And this is just how these are default how it interpreted my designs in there. I can manipulate these completely. So I have a lot of control over these. Really, it's wanting to know like what mine. And so here, yeah, it's reading my QR code. So let me just walk through this kind of slow. I know I bounce around a lot, but I loaded my material. If it has a QR code, it will kind of pick it up and say, hey, that's light basswood. Why that matters is every different material is going to need different speeds to cut and maybe different intensities of the laser to cut through. So it needs to know what material it is because then it has preset settings, ideally to cut it through. Um, they are modifiable, but generally I usually run it in default and haven't had any issues. This is the first time actually, Riley cut one out and it didn't cut all the way through. And I'm actually surprised at that because we selected the right material. I have some stuff that doesn't have the QR codes on it, or if the QR code has been cut, then I just need to tell it what this is where you would tell it what kind of material you're cutting. So most of the stuff I have to cut here is like medium acrylics or some medium woods. Um, so anyway, mine has picked up that it's light basswood plywood. Orange means it's ready to cut, but I don't want to cut these. So this gets into like nesting. You don't want to just cut your designs out on the middle of like an empty sheet, right? So I'm gonna nest this into a corner or something so I don't just waste a bunch of space. But what I've really got here is it's interpreted my design, especially specifically my engraved design. It's interpreted as a cut and an engrave. So I'm going to delete this step. I want it to be an engraved step. So I think I can just click on this step and say ignore. And so now this step isn't going to be done. Sometimes I'll move these up to the top. These are like, you can drag and drop these into the order that they're going to cut. I do engrave before I cut generally. So everything's going to be engraved before cut. Obviously and then back to here, my pieces aren't even on top of themselves either. So I'm actually going to place that now onto this in this program here. So you kind of have like a little mini ribbon menu here. We have to be careful when you're moving this stuff though, is that because it's so many different line segments, make sure you're not leaving a piece behind or whatever. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make an extra step here. So I brought these in as both cuts, but I want this one to be a score. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in on this. I'm going to try to grab this shape. So you can kind of grab like with a crossing window. I don't think it has a lasso, but I'm going to grab this with a crossing window. I'm looking to grab his little scarf, but I don't want this other stuff. So I think I can, do I hold down shift and select this? Or I think I can hold down shift almost like you would in CAD and like unselect this geometry. I don't want to copy that geometry. And I don't want to copy these. But you can zoom in. I use like control scroll to like zoom in. There is like a zoom up here, but I just use control scroll and holding down shift. I don't want these little pieces to come with me. I just want that little scarf. Yeah, yeah. So I think I have it all captured. And now I'm going to just do like a right click and do a copy of this. So I just made a copy. It should show up here in just a minute. Let me scroll out. Maybe I need to do a paste. So I did my copy. Now I'm going to do a left click, or yeah, I'm doing a right click here. Paste as a new step. I do want it. Whatever I just copied here, I'm going to paste as a new step. And then it shows up that, hey, there's this other thing I'm going to cut here. And there it is. It shows up right here. I'm going to move it off for just a minute. I'm going to move this way off because it's easy to like get this stuff overlapping on itself and it's hard to like grab individual line segments. So that's cool. So now I have these three things that I'm going to do. This one that I just copied, I'm going to change to a score. So I'm just going to click on this step. Here's the options you would have to change it. So I'm going to say score. So that's now a score step. And I'm going to put it above the cut step. So I've got an engrave and then I've got a score. This should allow me to engrave, score, and cut. But what I need to do is delete the original cut here. So this little shape here now I can just delete out. Delete this, delete all this. So I just use these window crossings, delete. You have an undo button up here. I use the crap out of that because I often get stuff wrong. So now I've just deleted that step. Now I've got to place these over the top of each other, and I just kind of eyeball these, how they're going to fit together again. Maybe I'm going to move this step. I'm going to move this a little bit more out of my way here. So I'm just going to window select it, move it. You can rotate it. I'm going to move this one now. So I'm going to try to grab my engrave step here without grabbing anything else. There's my engrave. So I'm going to move this over and try to kind of eyeball it over on here. This takes a minute, kind of laggy. It's all these little parts coming over, but I'm just going to try to like eyeball where this thing lives over here. I don't want to drop this down until I'm pretty close because it is going to be hard to grab it again. There's my guy. He's like that. And then I'm going to click off him there. So there's my engrave step. Now I just need to place this little scarf on him. It's going to be a score. So the only reason why I did this was just honestly just to mess around with this laser and do its different features is what I was messing with for the most part. And so there's my little scored scarf. So now it's going to engrave this dude's stuff first. I know it looks a little bit weird, but I think my engravings generally have come out good, even if it kind of looks choppy because it does have a cut step. But never mind. I've ignored the first cut step, but it kind of still shows up in there. So I'm getting this weird, but it's going to ignore it. It's going to engrave that guy, score that guy, and then cut this thing out. So that would be ready to go for me. Other than I just want to nest it now is what we'd call is like place it on the sheet where you're not just wasted out here in the middle of the open. So really, this camera's zooming in on kind of the extents that it will cut here. And I generally don't. You can cut this out. Usually, I don't cut this out till it's like the last part of the sheet I'm cutting. I'll go ahead and cut the QR code out. So I don't try to cut the QR code because it just helps me identify material fast, helps my machine identify it. So I'll usually cut it out last. I still use it. It'll cut right over the top of that, no problem. But I'm going to move this down into a corner where I'm not cutting it out. So I'm going to move this down into this. And what you'll notice when you're going to place these things is it's super laggy for one. It's like way behind in my mouse movement right now. So I got to wait for it to come around. I'm going to kind of drag it down. And so this is getting pretty close to the extents. Like I'll show you this. I'll drop him here and it shows that it's going to cut my foot, but I think this foot is going to fall off. Usually this will turn red. When it knows it's going to fall off, it'll turn red and show you that part of your guy is going to fall off this thing. So this is a little misleading. I think that would fall off here. I'm going to select it again and just move it a little bit. So you want to make sure that you're at least on the material. And then what you do is once you're ready and you're in a good position, like you're nested pretty good, I can definitely move it to the left a little bit more. So I'll do a little more move. And it's actually showing a camera that's in there right now. So if I had parts cut out of the sheet, it would look like my sheet is. So you'd be able to see where not to cut. But I can go over a little bit more even. But this is good. This would be maybe a good nested part. And then you just come up here and you hit print. And I'm actually not going to do mine. I'll cancel mine, but I'll show you what it does. It hits print. It's going to load this. Sometimes there is an error here every once in a while. Sometimes it'll be like, I can't do this. And then you'll have to just kind of troubleshoot that again. Sometimes I'll just reload my imagery, realign it all. And I don't always have problems with it, but it can have a mess up here. What it's going to do is eventually it'll say it's ready to print. And then you actually have to go and come up here and press the button on the machine once it's glowing blue to actually have it cut. Usually gives you an estimated time and everything here. Oh, and sometimes it does this because it did a little zoom in, and you'll get this little thing that says, "Hey, after measuring your material, the preview image has been updated. Make sure that your design is where you want it." So every once in a while, when it does that update, you're even though you've carefully placed your part on the sheet, it can kind of look like it fell off, and then you actually need to cancel this and go back and realign it in there. Mine's good to go. So my button's glowing on my machine now. I could walk over and hit print, and it would actually cut this out. It's going to take 3 minutes 25 seconds. It's going to do all that engraving first. That usually does take it a little bit of time, and then the cutting is pretty quick. Cutting and scoring is really fast, but. So I'm just going to cancel mine, but that is my last video for the day of how kind of the controls of Glowforge are kind of clumsy. If they were a DXF file, I think they'd come in way better. But working from a PDF, they're kind of like these really chopped up images that you can still modify. And but but I usually I have found it's just easier to separate them here, um, and separate what I want to etch without any borders around it. Just let it be those etched polygons. And then even in this case, I might feel like it's easier to bring that little neckerchief off as a separate little image there and then just align it in Glowforge how I want it to be. It's all scaled right, so it fits together, but I can separate the steps in CAD is sometimes easier is what I found. And then just move them. Because what gets really hard is when you want to just grab, in that in the stupid Glowforge thing, it's just hard to get a window crossing and not grab all this other little geometry. It's a little bit painful. So I've just found it's easier for me to separate in CAD, and then they're so much easier to grab in Glowforge's little user interface. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.